D.E.Snyder on Wide Awake News. I'll be filling in for Charlie McGrath today, Tuesday, October the 15th. And later I will be joined by Karen Quinn-Tostado. We have actually decided that we can now, from now on, be referred to as Charlie's Angels, ready to step in at a moment's notice when Charlie can't make it. Yesterday, I don't know if anyone listened to my show, but I actually got shut down about 13 minutes before the end of the show, which was annoying and frustrating because I didn't get to tie it all together. So I'm actually going to take this opportunity today to first recap a little of yesterday and then finish off what I wanted to leave you with, and then we'll be joined by Karen. So yesterday I had pointed out that this whole debt ceiling is really a misnomer, and all this debt from the feds is kind of interesting because there's almost $30 trillion that the one arm of the government borrowed from the other arm of the government. And so since they keep the same ledger, and this is all just a debt interest, theoretically, and the way it should work, is that they should just cancel it out, and right away there would be a $30 trillion clean slate. That's what I'd like to see happen, and that's what I think if our Congress actually represented us, that's what they would be pushing for. But of course they're not, because they don't represent us. I also want to, regarding this whole banking thing, of course we had all these false flags in the last few years, and I think people have forgotten something about James Holmes, the 2012 Aurora shooting guy. His father, Robert Holmes, was a true blue blood with his family line going all the way back to the Mayflower. Of course, he was educated at the University of California in Berkeley and at Stanford University, and he was the senior lead scientist of the American credit score company, FICO, which was formerly known as Fair, Isaac and Company, and to which every American citizen is beholden should they need to borrow money. This always comes back to this money thing. We had this huge investigation by the U.S. Senate regarding the LIBOR scandal, where the UK banks were fixing the borrowing rate through London Interbank, with the complicity, of course, of the Bank of England and the U.S. Federal Reserve, which knew about this crime more than 4 years prior, as well as the other banks, because, of course, it's a banking cartel. Not known to the majority of those affected by the LIBOR scandal, which is everyone in the world. Everyone in the world. If you deal with money, then you were affected. What no one really understood is that these historically low settings of interest rates since the beginning of the global financial crisis of 2007 all the way to 2012 has done more to destroy the life savings and the stock investments and the retirements of American middle class than any other single event in your entire life. Holmes had recently completed his work on what was called one of the most sophisticated computer algorithms ever developed, that really uncovered the true extent of this massive fraud, but was also able to trace the trillions of dollars that were lost to the exact bank accounts of the elite classes who had stolen it. So it's no coincidence that this massacre occurred within minutes of London's Guardian news service releasing what was a shocking report titled "Wealth Doesn't Trickle Down, It Just Floods Offshore," research reveals. So if you haven't read that article, I highly recommend that you go and hunt it down on the internet. Nothing is perchance. We have come to a point in our history and our evolution where everything is masterminded and everything is controlled. And that is not a conspiracy theory. I'm always concerned when I hear people talking about the latest conspiracy theories or previous conspiracy theories, because so many things that are at first talked about as being quasi-conspiracy theories turn out to have extreme elements of truth that take us in all sorts of quite formidable directions. As well, the SEAL Team 6 that supposedly went in and rid the world of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, we all remember what happened to them. Not good things. So this comes back to where I left off yesterday, which was about our veterans and the fact that our veterans are the de facto enemy of the state. Of course, our laws, being statutory laws, were written by the Federal Reserve, and veterans were stated there clearly as being an enemy of the state, as was every person who lives on the landmass known as the United States of America. So currently, last weekend with the whole truckers movement, of course, we had our veterans in Washington, D.C., and there was a lot of talk about, the barricades around the Veterans Memorial Center, and the fact that even though the government is shut down, areas that were veteran memorials that in the past did not require a guard, now during the shutdown suddenly had a guard turning people away. And it's very illuminating because it goes forth to illustrate very clearly that this government shutdown is not about shutting government down. It is only being shut down in areas that directly affect people. It is only a show of force and aggression towards the American public. And I don't know how many people really know veterans, but there has been a systematic progress made over the last several years to reinforce the fact in the public's mind and within procedural accounts that veterans are an enemy. The veterans have been receiving letters through the VA informing them that their VA records are based on what is in their VA records. There will be a determination made as to whether they, in their capacity as a private citizen, will be allowed to own a handgun. And this is very concerning because I actually know several veterans who have a spotless military record, have spotless civilian records, but have been denied their right to own a weapon in their capacity as a private citizen of the United States of America. No one is exempt from this creeping government ownership, this government as parent. Something that I also want to bring up is this whole thing about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Pact. While the government supposedly is shut down, your government officials are very busy working on the Trans-Pacific Pact, which is really a NAFTA on steroids. It's supposedly a free trade zone from Vietnam to Chile that involves 800 million people. It's going to involve almost 40% of our global economy and a third of all trade. It's not a trade agreement. It's a corporate mandate. It's a corporate mandate, a dictate from United States Incorporated. It's a corporate takeover with the full might of all the vested private for-profit corporations and their own personal enforcement personnel, which is essentially the U.S. Congress, the U.S. President, and his departments, which we know as the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, and they are financed by their personal printer, known as the Federal Reserve. And the interest on all of that business is paid for in blood by every single American citizen. This is our debt that we have to carry on behalf of corporate America. If you look at the TPP, you understand, and of course no one's actually really looked at it. There have been some leaked documents, but you have to wonder, even when Congress is complaining and squeaking about the fact that they haven't been able to see any of the documentation to do with the TPP and have not been included in any of the discussions, there should be 100 red flags going up and bells and whistles from here to Washington, D.C., because the president has excluded everybody from these trade agreements. And they're very insidious because although there's 29 chapters, only 5 of them have to do with trade. The other 24 either handcuff domestic governments, limiting food safety, they eliminate environmental standards, they do away with financial regulations, energy and climate policy, and are always in favor of the establishment and the establishment of the corporate entities. They also establish new powers for corporations. The people that are involved are all the same investor privileged few that promote job offshoring to lower wage countries. There's a ban on buy local procurements, so companies will not have the right to, people will not have the right to source locally. Companies will have the inherent right to source and outsource, essentially taking our tax dollars and taking them out of our local economies and our local communities and sending them offshore. It's very, very insidious, and it's going to be this defining thing that divides the U.S. and its allies who have signed the TPP into two distinct global camps. Essentially, you are with us or you are against us. There's going to be enhanced freedoms for other countries to take natural resources, rights for mining, a right to oil and gas without approvals. It's doing away with so much regulation, and even now there is so much land grab going on, particularly in Africa. And one of the biggest and most insidious issues to do with this is that they are going after lands in Africa to grow biofuels. They are taking viable lands in Africa, taking them away from indigenous people, local economies, and the governments, growing biofuels, pushing these people further and further down into starvation, and then still having to process and ship these biofuels back to the US and the EU. So there's an incredibly worrisome set of issues relating to internet freedoms through a backdoor, the Copyright Act laws, to stop pirating and anti-piracy laws. All the signatory countries would be required to change their domestic laws to meet these enhanced mandates of the Trans-Pacific Pact. So countries that sign on to the TPP will essentially be giving up their sovereignty and will be run by US incorporated through the UN. It's incredibly insidious, and you need to know that 49 out of 100 of our senators and congressmen have voted an approval for this, which just goes to show all is not well there, as we know. All right, I want to move on. So getting back to our veterans, recently there was an announcement in the media that the Pentagon admits airport arrival ceremonies of remains of our soldiers are fake. And I'm going to read this from Stars and Stripes, October the 10th, 2013. The Department of Defense unit charged with recovering service members' remains abroad has been holding phony arrival ceremonies for several years, with an honor guard carrying flag-draped coffins off of a cargo plane as though they held the remains returning that day from old battlefields. The Pentagon acknowledged Wednesday that no honored dead were in fact arriving, and that the planes used in the ceremonies often couldn't even fly and were towed into position. Of course, there's outrage, as there should be. It's absolutely disgusting. But if anybody thinks that this is the first or an isolated incident, you are foolish. There's been several probes into the MIA recovery programs that shows deep and abiding problems going back to before the Vietnam War. One of those people that has been inherently involved in this, someone who has inserted themselves into these affairs, is Senator McCain. And I have to go on record again. I love going on record to tell everybody just how much I detest Senator McCain. Of course, his plane was shot down in 1967, and he became a prisoner of war. I urge people to go to this website, and it will be linked to the YouTube video, but it's www.missingpresumedead.com. It's a fantastic documentary, and it was supported by several POW and MIA organizations who cite McCain as one of the biggest obstacles in resolving the abandonment of America's POWs and MIAs. And this is still going on. He still manages to insert himself all the time into everything to do with veterans, and it's never on behalf of veterans. He, like Michelle Obama, who, as you recall, Michelle Obama stumped and said she was going to speak out on behalf of military families and stand up for veteran rights. Well, she has been silent all of these years, and I assure you, veterans and their families and our military families have a lot of very justified grievances, and Michelle Obama has stayed quiet, while McCain has inserted himself as the opposition. He was on TV the other day and made my hair stand on end. He was being interviewed by some woman or other, and he was talking again about Obamacare, and he was saying, "Oh, this is just awful. We shut down government to defund Obamacare, and I voted against Obamacare, and we need to get the government up and running so we can get checks out to our soldiers and our veterans and our disadvantaged people." I mean, he just ranted on in his doddery old way. But if you listen to the entire interview, which was 11 minutes, he flip-flopped in the same interview on whether he wanted Obamacare defunded, because first he said that he did, and he mentioned that he had voted against Obamacare, and then he actually sniggered on TV that it's impossible to do. It's impossible to overturn Obamacare. And then he went on and on about repeating that he was very concerned about the medical devices tax, as though that alone is a deficit issue in the bill. It's not. It's minor. It's a tiny little tax passed on to the consumers. Sure it is. But it is completely irrelevant in the scheme of what the entire Obamacare issue is. He says that he fought to repeal or replace Obamacare. But if you go back and you look, he had actually very little to say. For someone who considered himself a lion of the Senate, and for someone who actually had a ticket to the White House, I find this man to be incredibly insidious, and I'm pleading with Arizona to please take this man back, get him out of Congress, and let's put limits on congressional terms. So I want to keep returning to veterans because it's so important. I don't know if anyone knows much about organ donation and the provenance behind organs and their donation. I did go into it in some detail yesterday. But in the 1980s, there was this thing called the Uniform Determination of Death Act, which defined death as the irreversible cessation of the function of either the brain or the heart and lungs. But it has become a much more complicated than that. And there have been several quite compelling lawsuits. One was of parents in Ohio, Michael and Teresa Jacobs, who maintained that their son's death was caused not by his injury, but by doctors removing his breathing tube and administering unspecified medications in preparation for organ removal. So, getting back to our veterans, this is very important to understand that even in the United States, which has a very compelling body committee that mandates the way in which organs can be harvested and transplanted and searched out, and of course there's organ donor waiting lists. Even here, there have been tremendous issues with the legal ramifications of the death determination. Now, this has a huge impact on our veterans, and there are currently several families in the United States, military families, who are terribly concerned because they believe very strongly that their military families, their sons and daughters and husbands, were used overseas for human experiments at a hospital, the Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, which is a military hospital operated by the United States Army and the Department of Defense. Of course, it's the largest military hospital outside the continental U.S., and it serves as the nearest treatment center for wounded soldiers coming from the Middle East and Africa. And there have been some rather serious allegations and serious charges made against the DoD and the German hospital from these families who were first told that their loved ones were missing or had died on the battlefield, only to then months later hear from people that had made it home that these family members were alive in the hospital. Now, if you go to the DoD website, they actually have, and you go and you look at their procurements, things that they've bought, things that they've sold, where they get their money from, where their money goes from. There's some interesting categories that talk about not only tissue procurement, but tissue and bone sales. And so this is an ongoing case, which I've been researching for about 4 years. And it's quite ominous, particularly when you understand that DARPA is a division of the U.S. government. It's one of those corporate entities, one of those acronym-bearing corporate entities of U.S. Incorporated. And you look at all of the research that they have going on, and you understand the amount of money and resources that they have. Much of this research trickles out into public universities and is worked on student body with our tax dollars, and then subcontracted out and given back to these people in these insidious industries. I hear the ads coming on. I'll be right back.
Heart-related health problems affect millions of people each year. Maybe you're one of the many who suffer from issues related to angina pain, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeat, or clogged arteries. There is a solution that doesn't involve expensive prescription drugs that only mask the problem and leave you with horrible side effects. If you are ready to live your life free of sickness, pain, and fear, live your life with increased vitality, energy, and youthfulness, and experience your body healing itself, then you're ready for Heart and Body Extract from Healthy Hearts Club. Heart and Body Extract has a 23-year proven track record of using certified organic herbs that make up an excellent formula to balance and support the heart and circulatory system. In as little as 2 weeks, you can feel amazing results when your 2-month supply of Heart and Body Extract today. Call 1-866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements every day, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, and even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com and now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae species found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. Bio Superfood is a strong defender in the fight against radiation exposure. Bio Superfood has zero toxicity, is safe, and has no contraindications whatsoever. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com. That's spelled BIOAGE.com, BioAge.com. Or you can call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
Famous Pastor Lindsey Williams.
I'm 77 years of age. I feel better than I did when I was in my 50s and 60s. I was so sick, I thought I was going to die. It relates to a product that you handle right here. Folks, you positively must, after this show, you've got to click on Carnivora. They must have it in their medicine cabinet.
This is owner Richard Ostro for Carnivora Research International. This is promo time, folks, for Carnivora capsules. Buy 2, get 1 free. Buy 4, get 2 free. Buy 6 and get 3 free. There is no limit. You must use the promotion code BCAPS3. That's BCAPS3, whether calling 1-866-VENUS-FLY or placing your order online at carnivora.com. That's carnivora.com. Protect your immune system. It's the only one you've got.
Hey, this is D.E.Snyder filling in for Charlie McGrath. So as I was saying before the break, essentially the enormous advances in science and technology to do with biology and particularly brain research has had a steady supply of raw materials. And those raw materials have been in the form of our soldiers that were damaged in these bankers' wars on behalf of U.S. Incorporated. Yes, technology has played an integral part. Technology has moved very fast in the last 2 decades in particular. But all of this biological research that has just flourished, absolutely flourished, would not have been possible were it not without these raw materials, live human beings. Because without it, it would all be hypothetical study based on algorithms, on computer data models. But because they've had a virtually unlimited access to raw materials in the form of beating hearts and actual brainwave function, the strides have been enormous. And there's been an incredible proliferation of research that's been done. Which is actually, believe it or not, my area of expertise. Now, the creation of the first genetically engineered farm animals or bioanimals was documented in FDA documents in 1985. But if you do a little more research and you dig a little more deeply, you discover, of course, that this was first done by the Germans in the Second World War and based on research that had previously been done in the United States. Japan played its part. It did some very, very terrible research, but all of that research has been made available to the United States. And despite anything on the surface about the United States and Russia having their little tiffs, and the United States and Japan at odds, or the United States and Germany at odds, in the science and medical biology fields, there is an incredible overlap, and there are multiple teams working very, very closely together with funds donated from all vested governments. So it's important to know this, that, on the surface we've got these minor issues going on, but they have a incredibly vested interest in science and technology that the average person cannot begin to fathom. I've been to several of these symposiums. I have a first-hand look at some of the data coming out of this research, and it's truly quite frightening. And it's frightening because specifically none of this research has been translated, or less than 3% of this research has been translated in any meaningful way into anything that improves the quality of life of humans, or improves the quality of the way in which we conduct our farming practice. Neither has it improved the quality of the way in which we package our food. So it's, to me anyway, very, very insidious the way so much money, unlimited amounts of money, has been made available for these kinds of research, including into NASA, which has done a lot of research into brain and body and cellular structure for their own reasons. Now, if you go, and these links, the links that I talk about will be on the YouTube video, and the Office of Congressional and Government Affairs, there's several books that they talk about there, and these books are really the transcripts of meetings that different committees had. And I just want to read you one little thing. There's this book called A New Biology for the 21st Century, and the authors were the Committee on a New Biology for the 21st Century, ensuring the U.S. leads the coming biology revolution. And it was put out by the National Research Council. And that committee is made up of people that head other committees, it is all to do with technology, engineering, transgenics, and the melding of human and non-human technology into what we call in the industry a super technology, which is organic and inorganic. And I'm going to read you this. Now more than ever, biology has the potential to contribute practical solutions to many of the major challenges confronting the U.S. and the world. It recommends that there be a new biology approach, one that depends on greater integration within the biology, a closer collaboration with physical, computational, earth scientists, mathematicians, and engineers, and that they be used to find solutions to 4 key societal needs. And while on the surface it sounds as though these are going to affect you and I and our world, they absolutely don't. but I'm going to read them to you. Sustainable food production, ecosystem restoration, optimized biofuel production, and the very last one is improvement in human health. The approach calls for a coordinated effort to leverage resources. And that sentence says it all. The approach calls for a coordinated effort to leverage resources. It's not about you and me. Let me tell you about sustainable food production. There's plenty of food. There's more than enough food. The problem is not food growing. The problem is the way in which it's transported, well, grown, transported, processed, the way it's packaged, the way it's distributed, the way it's warehoused, the way it's merchandised, and the way it sits on the shelf and rots because people can't afford to pay those prices. And then the wholesalers get to take it back and get a store credit. Did you know that? There is an abundant amount of food in this world. It's just that it's not getting to the people that need it. Let me tell you about ecosystem restoration. The ecosystem has been systematically destroyed by fossil fuels. Sure, we could talk about that. But how about nuclear detonations, toxic factories and their water spillways spilling into our valuable water resources, the depleted uranium that our military drops all over the place. Depleted uranium, of course, is a byproduct of our nuclear energy industry. What about persistent contrails, those chemtrails, and their barium salts, their aluminum, their arsenic? What about the toxic farming practice of our cattle with all their antibiotics, their growth hormones, all of that poop that comes off of these feedlot farms is then taken and put on our growing farms so that the plants can take all the stuff up so that we continue to eat it. So it doesn't matter where you turn, you're getting it. What about glyphosates? All these chemicals that are used to grow these GMO products. You have to address these things in order to be talking about ecosystem restoration, not this other nonsense. So let's talk about optimized biofuel production. And you realize that all of these things that I've just said come before improvements in human health. Human health was the last thing on their agenda. I was there. So, optimized biofuel production. This is fuel, no pun intended. This is fuel for machines, not for human people. This has promoted land grabs in foreign countries, as I've said, to grab vast swaths of land from indigenous people who are starving and can't grow food on the lands that they've been left with because the water that's available there has been taken by the oil industry for fracking. So we're destroying all this, and then we're justifying growing GMOs to feed the world. You guys have got to read between the lines. This is just absolute, utter hocus pocus. So let's talk about optimized health for humans. Well, you first need to fix all these other things. In order to go forward in a healthy and sustainable manner, you need to look at what we've been doing in the past, and you need to fix those things. All our health issues are a result of all of these toxic other things. Instead, we've got all of these committees and commissions and yada, 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 and books being put out, and DARPA and their unlimited resources, and all of our other government agencies and their multi-tiered systems of making money hand over fist with permits and permission slips and prescription kickbacks. All of these things is what's wrong with human health today. So on that link that will be up there, you can go and look at some of the other books that have been put out and look at all the committees on science and technology and law. There's all these committees on law committees, because they have to write the legislature that ensures that all of these toxic practices go forward and that less than 3% of anything worthwhile makes it out into human health and the human healthcare paradigm. It's incredibly, incredibly insidious. And on that note, I would like to bring Karen on now that we've got less than 15 minutes left of the show. Karen, are you there?
Hi, Diana.
I saw the funny little face you sent me.
Well, I did have some things to go along with what you were talking about. I put a log or a link in the chat room. And the military coalition actually today did have another rally in Washington, D.C. at the National World War II Memorial. And Donnie got me right in time for the commercial. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, Charlie McGrath here at WideAwakeNews.com, and I'm here to tell you I believe that Chris and the folks over at SeedsNow.com offer the best product at the best prices with the best service of anybody in the market. But don't take my word for it. Listen to what some of their customers have to say. Joshua in Florida writes, exceeded my expectations. Shipping was prompt and a number of my plants are already starting to sprout. Thanks for being great. And Ryan in California writes, I just received my Homestead Seed Bank, my all-in-one prepper pack, and seed-to-seed storage and growing guidebook, and I could not be more pleased. Thanks, Seeds Now. Now I can start growing and get off the GMOs. Keep up the great work. And the list goes on and on. Guys, it's time to make SeedsNow.com an integral part of your long-term preparedness strategy. Please call them at 877-344-4669. That number again, 877-344-4669. Or better yet, visit them today at SeedsNow.com.
Is what you are currently doing to relieve your pain working for you? Do you have chronic pain in your knees, your elbows, your joints, your back, your muscles? Have you tried going to the doctors and the naturopathic doctors, the back cracks, the motions, the potions, the lotions, and nothing seems to really last? There's a new product called a placebo enhancer. Now, don't laugh. The name is to avoid tyranny from the drug cartels that want to keep everybody on a leash. This product is advanced science. It's cutting edge. It's quantum physics-based, energy-infused liquid suspension with a transdermal magnesium applicant. You spray a couple sprays on where it hurts, and that's all you have to do, and within 20 minutes it's in every one of your cells. Go to painsucks.info and get the information. That's painsucks.info. Again, you can get a free trial bottle. Just pay shipping and handling at painsucks.info. Your pain isn't going to go away on its own, so get your trial bottle immediately. Painsucks.info.
Charlie McGrath of WideAwakeNews.com here with a question for my friends at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion. What do they know that we don't? Insiders and a who's who list of elite have made it crystal clear that we are headed for catastrophe, putting out warning after warning, urging people to batten down the hatches. Billionaire George Soros has recently been dumping stocks and at the same time acquiring millions in gold. In fact, in a recent interview, he was quoted as saying, "I'm not here to cheer you up. The situation is as serious and difficult as I've experienced in my career." Out of control government deficit spending and a Federal Reserve that's only solution seems to be print more fiat currency will lead to a weaker dollar and massive inflation on necessity items such as energy and food. If you have wealth to protect, please visit my friends at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion. Gabe Elton and the folks at Austin Rare Coins and Bullion have many Wide Awake News customers because they're honest, they're fair, and they won't sell you paper promises or product they do not have. Call Gabe Elton at 800-552-4109. That number again, 800-552-4109, or visit them online at austincoins.com.
Make a promise, take a vow. Trust your feelings, it's easy now. Understand the voice within and feel a change already beginning.
Hi, this is Dinah, back with Karen. Karen, I just want to say this thing about molecular epigenetics. All the things that I previously said before I brought Karen in was this whole notion of epigenetics. And epigenetics is, well, I'm going to read you exactly, but you should Google it and understand it, because you are being directly affected by this notion of, or this reality of epigenetics, because it's the study of changes in gene expression or cellular phenotype, which is caused by mechanisms other than changes in the underlying DNA sequence. It refers specifically to the functionally relevant modifications to the genome that do not involve the change in the nucleotide sequence. So if you understand that you are made up of DNA and RNA, and DNA zips one way and then RNA zips the other way, where it fixes any minor aberrations from one offspring to the next over our evolutionary time frame. All these things that we are subjected to today destroy our RNA's ability to correctly repair when it zips all of these different things. So the genetic processes are being mutated on a very fundamental level in every single way, because we breathe chemicals, we drink them, we eat them, we voluntarily roll up our sleeves and are injected with them. And all of these things cause a DNA damage that is transferred to the next generation at an increased rate beyond your wildest ability to comprehend, which is why we are getting sicker and sicker, even though we spend the most per capita on healthcare. And now you are going to be mandated. All right, Karen, let's continue with something else.
Well, one thing that I just want to finish on this is on InfoWars, but there were military veterans getting together today in Washington, D.C. at the World War II Memorial, and they also represented more than 33 organizations, including the Marine Corps League, the Association of the U.S. Army, Association of the U.S. Navy, AMVETS, Reserve Officers Association, and many others. They were demanding an end to the government shutdown. Now, when we talk about government shutdowns, I also want people to really understand, because a lot of them, even though we saw that the veterans were arrested here over the weekend, they were hassled by some of the park rangers, some of them backed off, but we have a very, very touchy situation here. And back in World War I, soldiers who served were paid $1 a day. I mean, think about how prices are now, plus a 25-cent stipend for every day spent overseas. In 1924, Congress passed a law calling for every veteran of the Great War, which is just so disgusting to call any war a great war when they're all rip-offs. They're all about stealing money from the people and land from the people. They are a racket. Just Google General Smedley Butler. You can even just look up warisaracket.org. But anyway, in 1924, Congress passed a law calling for every veteran to receive an additional $1 for every day served, but the payment was not due for 20 years. And then with the Great Depression, again, misnamed, but it was called Great because it was great for those same banking families who are in control today to collect on everything. As a matter of fact, my grandfather lost everything during that war. Anyway, with the advent of the Great Depression, these soldiers needed the money. They went to Washington by the thousands, and they camped out. They were very respectful, but they wanted their money. Well, sorry, that won't work, because actually war was declared upon them. And someone who usually, when we think about him in terms of being a hero, well, Douglas MacArthur led the federal troops who burned the bonus army's camps. You know, Dwight D. Eisenhower was around. They went in there and just wreaked havoc. The bonus soldiers had actually set up like a tent city. They were respectful. They were working together. They were really cooperating, but no, you can't have it for the government. And also then the violence that follows has been often overlooked, and the impact of the 1932 presidential election underestimated. Paul Dixon is the author of a new book entitled The Bonus Army, An American Epic, and he believes that what happened to the bonus army made the politicians think long and hard. When World War II veterans began to return, the result was the GI Bill, which Dixon credits with propelling millions into the middle class and changing the very fabric of the United States. And Dinah, I think if you just reflect on that for a second, it certainly makes sense. They've learned from World War I that soldiers coming back will be fed up when they're not given what they are promised. They will take a stand, and we pit now soldier against soldier, but we've got many, many here in this country, foreign soldiers right now that are just waiting for the orders. We have to be so careful in this day and age, and I also want to really encourage people to tune in to the United We Strike Marathon on UnitedWeStrike.com. The archives are streaming. Please go to the podcast and listen to Jesse Beltran and Lars Drudgard who tell you that if something happens and you have a health issue where you're unconscious and you are picked up by the Army, whoever picks you up, if you're just picked up and taken to a regular hospital, you can be experimented on. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous and horrible, but it's true. And if you want more, listen, please, to Lars and Jesse on the United We Strike Marathon, which was just this weekend. And now, Dinah, I'm going to let you wrap it up. Thank you for having me on. And thanks for subbing for Charlie. I think we'll be back next week.
Absolutely, Karen. Thank you. Yes, I had actually talked about the army between the First and Second World War and what had happened, and it's truly shocking. But it really goes along with this whole thing, this whole premise that U.S. Incorporated has, that has identified veterans as the de facto enemy of the state. Of course, all of the people of the United States are the enemy of U.S. Incorporated. This is absolutely beyond question, and this, you can go to government.org website and you can look at these documents, and you can look at them all the way back to that era, to 1933, actually all the way back to 1920, when the first Federal Reserve papers were put up, and they're archived and they're relatively easy to go and hunt down. But again, you don't even have to go that far. Recently, under the NDAA, if you go and you look at all of those documents, you realize that we have all been categorized, we've all been labeled as various forms of enemies of the state. If you're a veteran, if you homeschool, if you store food, for goodness sake, if you grow food, if you belong to religious organizations, it's this divide and conquer. Many people don't know what the NDAA really is, and I really urge people to go to whitehouse.org or .gov and go and type in NDAA and go and look at it. The press made out that it was merely an update to keep up with the changing times that we live in, and it's really not. It gives the president the right to all forms of energy, all forms of civil transportation, all usable water from all sources, all commodities and productions that are capable of being ingested by either animal or human. It allows the government to take charge of all the health resources, all the drugs, the biological products, medical devices, materials, facilities, health supplies. This is under Executive Order, 13603. All of these things are there for the president. All he has to do is say that we have a state of emergency, that we are in a crisis. He doesn't have to prove it in any way. He merely has to say it. And this is incredibly, incredibly important to understand. We don't even need a false flag event. We don't need any kind of impetus. The president can just announce, because of the shutdown of government or the rebel rousing over the people pushing back over this mandated healthcare initiative or healthcare plan, he can just announce that we are now in a state of emergency. And as Karen pointed out, we have close to, if not 400,000 foreign troops on U.S. soil that are not bound by posse comitatus. So I think that pretty much wraps us up for today. Charlie's Angels have held the fort and done it. And I thank you all very much. If you go, I'm pretty sure this will be up as a YouTube video sometime later this afternoon. And there will be lots and lots of links for you to go to. While the internet is still available and we have the opportunity to do some research before the TPP becomes enforced and in effect, I suggest that everybody get online and start doing some research and looking into these things. If you have paper money, you need to get it out of the bank. Bad times are coming. Karen.
Dinah, I just wanted to jump in and let people know that I will be on tomorrow with Walter Graham, who has done excellent work. He's out of Ireland. And we'll talk about fluoride, which is one of the ways that they are dumbing us down and keeping us from actually looking around at the truth of how we're being poisoned on every level imaginable. Some we can't even fathom, and it truly is up to these people. Thank you, Dinah. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow
Karen.
right here on Charlie McGrath's Wide Awake News.
Wrap up. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bound and found later under a tree. I wonder if he thought the next one could be me. Do you see the soldiers that are out today to brush the dust from bulletproof vests away? It's ironic. At times like this you pray, but a bomb blew the mosque up yesterday. There's bombs on the buses, bikes, roads, inside your market, your shops, your clothes. My dad, he's got a lot of fear, I know, but enough pride inside, nothing let that show. My brother had a book he would hold with pride, a little red cover with a broken spine on the back. He hand wrote a quote inside: when the rich wage war, it's the poor who die. Meanwhile, the leader just talks away, stuttering and mumbling for nightly news to replay. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like, what did he say?
Oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at Rense.com. Look for the New Earth banner at Rense.com.
In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the next 12 months will be the most anticipated and important months in modern human history. This will make 2008 look like a walk in the park. Everyone will be affected. Go to www.the3videos.com now. Learn how to prepare your family and prosper during the global financial collapse.
You're listening to the Rense Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at Rense.com.
IRN U.S.